Roland, as a diver, you are on the one side of the so-called, let's call it the shark war, between the divers and the fishermen. Now, as a representative of the diving fraternity, what is your take on this whole issue, which has now been recurring for quite a few years now?
Johan, in this respect, I am actually surprised that there is another side at all, because it is not about divers versus fishermen. It is about humans versus inhumane people. What triggered this latest war, if we can call it, was something like this, if you have seen that one before. Okay. This is the head of a Zambezi shark that has been cut off by a ruthless person, whether that is a true fisherman or a pleasure fisherman or whatever his business is immaterial. To me, this is a crime to nature, crime against nature, and it is a crime against tourism into this community. And this is what my outcry is all about. I do not understand how there could possibly be a second side, because you don't need to be anything but human to see that this can only be wrong. There is no ways this can be right.
Let me play devil's advocate. There are people who say that there's nothing illegal about catching sharks, number one. And then number two, the sharks eat their fish that they catch. Yeah. Some of them even say that they're lucky if they get 2 fish out of 10 that they catch onto the boat. What do you say to that?
That is true, and I do sympathize with the fishermen in this respect. They have a problem getting fish out of the water, but that is the nature of their business or their sport. In Japan, the people kill the dolphins because they eat the fish. In Faroe Islands in the north of Denmark, they kill whales because they eat the fish. Is that right? Is that right? Although it's legal, it isn't right. I'm sure it is not completely illegal to catch a dog. If you cut its head off and just leave it or take its teeth out, you will be charged for cruelty to animals. Why is it allowed with a shark? What's different? A shark is a sea dog and this is a land dog.
Well, what is your solution? How can you, win-win if you want to go for a win-win?
We want a win-win situation. First of all, as I said, I do understand it is difficult for the fishermen to catch fish if the sharks are pestering them. And it is frustrating, it costs them money, they're losing money, and anybody can get angry, understandably so, yes. But just killing everything that's in your path is not going to solve the problem. This is besides my personal interest. My business is diving with sharks. I bring in excess of 1,000 people from overseas every year to come and see the sharks of Shelly Beach, Protea Banks. If the sharks are all gone, not only will we have destroyed the ecological balance, which will then also take the fish away, that maybe some simple folks don't understand. But it will also take away all the tourism revenues that comes to this country and to this community specifically. A solution is hard to find, but we need to sit back and think about it. I know of fishermen who come to me and say, I simply don't fish where the sharks are. I'll drive into another place. I'll fish elsewhere. I do other things. Or other fishermen say, I'll take it as a sport. If I can outsmart the shark, if I get the fish in quicker than the shark can bite it, then that's my sport. That is my challenge. The problem is we have a handful, or we have probably quite a few fishermen who are ruled by their emotions, and the only thing they can think of is destroying everything. And as I said, we can't go around the world destroy everything. There's many things that are in everybody's path during one's lifetime. If you just destroy it and kill it, what's going to be left of the earth?
Okay, you showed us that photo. How do you know that that was not an isolated incident? I mean, have you, or do you suspect that it happens more often than what you see?
Yes, it does very much so. This is an isolated incident, and even if it was the first and only ever incident, it is still cruel and absolutely wrong. It is not right to do that, whether it happens once or whether it happens regularly. However, we have been informed by fishermen, because we go out there diving, so we don't always see what other boats are doing out there. And we are not policing the area either. But we have been informed by what we call a good fisherman, who has a spirit and who appreciates the ocean as his playground or his livelihood. You got to have a certain relationship with the area that makes you a living. And we have been informed by the very same fishermen that a lot of them are just killing the sharks out of anger. Pure and simple anger, and they bring them to the boats. They're not targeting them as such. I must be honest. I think I'm fair to say they are not specifically fishing for sharks just to destroy them. But if they do catch a shark by accident, they won't let him live. And we have heard of the big practice of drumming, where they put a live bait on a petrol can in order to distract the sharks, catch a shark, and then they just let the shark battle it out until it's died. If you imagine, first of all, putting live bait on anything is ridiculous in today's day and age, as far as I'm concerned. Secondly, if a shark gets caught on a live bait with a petrol can swimming at the surface, can you imagine what a struggle that poor animal has got until it's finally over for it? I think it's just unbelievable. Something needs to be done. We cannot force the fishermen to stop at this practice. We can only plead to them to sit down and think about it. We have the first fisherman that came to us today. His boat is called Viking, Melville. He said he's going to put a sticker on his boat saying shark friendly. And I'm absolutely over the earth about this. I'm so happy to hear that. This is a trend that we are going to start in this country, and I think I'm going to put him on every single news media that I can hear of, and that I can manage to put this word out, that Melville from the Viking Fishing Charters is shark friendly. And the more boats are going to voluntarily comply with that, the better this place is going to be.
Roland, at the moment, what is the situation at Protea Banks? I mean, how many sharks are there? Do you still see many of them, or?
You see, Johan, the problem is, it is very difficult to give an accurate report on what's going on, because simply we do not have data that's reaching back for several decades, which is what would be needed to establish any correlations and trends. We have this year we have noticed that we have less tiger sharks. We have hardly any bull sharks, which are normally resident during the summertime on Protea Banks, and we have an explosion of blacktip sharks. Now, the tiger and the bull shark are not really the fisherman's problem. They do catch a fish here and there, but they're not going to they're slow swimming, slow hunting animals. And I think a reasonable fisherman can outsmart a tiger shark and a bull shark very easily, which is what we think with the experience we have from diving with them, even in a baited situation where we can study how they go about eating and catching a piece of chum that we put in the water. The blacktip is a bit of a problem shark. Even to us, it's a very hectic animal, very opportunistic, very fast. And all a fisherman needs is one or two blacktips underneath their boat, and he'll have a hard time getting anything out of the sea. Because if you imagine, if you have a 5 kilo or an 8 kilo fish on a hook, this constitutes a full meal for a shark. It's not the bait that the shark worries about. It's the actual fish that is a full meal. A piece of a sardine like this not going to even touch sides in the shark's stomach. But a 7-8 kilo fish, yes. And they are not stupid. They do recognize us. The sharks recognize the divers. We can tell that because once we have done a few baited dives and we do a couple of normal dives without bait in the water, the sharks come closer than usual to us because they remember divers mean chum and the smell of it and whatever comes with it. For this reason, we use an absolute minimum of, I'm probably going over the theme now, but we use a minimum of chum when we do a baited dive so that we don't condition the sharks, and still they do understand what's going on. So they can tell a fishing boat from any other boat, and if they stay under a fishing boat, you need 1 or 2 sharks, and they terrorize a boat.
What is the situation with other fish? Other fish at Protea Banks, for people who don't necessarily go for sharks. Go to interact with
There
other
is a multitude of fish that lives on Protea Banks. Protea Banks is one of the world's richest tuna grounds, as far as I know. I'm not a fisherman, but I heard that mentioned before. It is definitely a role player in the world's tuna grounds. which obviously the food chain always comes together. There are days when we see hardly any sharks on the reef, and the first thing we do is we go to the fishermen, we ask them how's the fishing. And every time we have no sharks on the reef, there is no fish to be caught. So if there is food on the reef, there are sharks on the reef. That is how nature works, and we're not going to change it, not by killing them, not by letting them live. That's just how it is. It's always going to be like that. And if we take the sharks out, then the whole balance will be out, and everything will be unregulated. And we already know from other parts in the world how resilient species are overtaking, such as the giant Humboldt squid in America, causing major havoc on American coastlines for the fishermen there, because it just eats indiscriminately. And this is what we think could happen here if the balance gets disturbed. Worldwide, we're talking at 100 to 200 million sharks being killed for their fins every single year. So the future of sharks is in dire straits, and we shouldn't add to it on our little side here.
Roland, one last question, the way forward, briefly. How do you see it?
We need to talk, we need to get agreements, we need to have understandings with the people. There need to be rules as well, because voluntarily we're not going to get it right. There need to be rewards for the good guys. They need to be pushed. They need to be advertised. They need to be given some incentives to voluntarily let the sharks go. Essentially, Johan, you see, there are different ways of fishing. There are fishermen who fish for fun and fishermen who fish commercially. The commercial fisherman has every right in the world to catch as much fish as he's legally allowed to supply the country with the fish and to make a living for himself and his family. That is only fair, and it must be like that. The fisherman who fishes for fun and the charter boat fisherman who makes his money from people like you and I who pay him $500 to go on his boat for a day's outing shouldn't have to be under pressure to catch unnecessary amounts of fish. The nature of that business traditionally is it provides a service to the public for entertainment purposes. It has now turned almost into a business where the fisherman is so desperate to get charter clients that they're promising them huge catches with inedible amounts of fish. And what we don't know and what we don't even want to, it's not our job to find out, but somebody should perhaps look into illegal selling of fish, because there must be a huge market for that, because it is just out of hand. You know, this is the problem.
Roland Mauz, thank you very, very much. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome.